The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I don't know why it cuts off at 5. I did that last time, too.
Caught me off guard.
Yeah, me too. I think I coughed. Sorry.
I could hear him like, why
Did
is
you
she talking during the opening? What is going on? That's because
talking to herself? It's normal. It's okay. But yeah, welcome, everybody. I'm Kari Moody. I'm so grateful that you guys are joining us tonight, whether you're just catching this live this evening or you're watching the replay later on. We appreciate you all. As always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host and great
Aw.
friend, Tara. And Tara is an integral part of like doing research with me. She also has helped from the very beginning run our 20,000 plus member Facebook group. So she'll be
Ooh.
helping like guide our discussion, keep things on track. Before we dive in, I'm always asked why I didn't do like a recap. So real quick, let me just give a brief overview of the case for anyone who's new to our community. We this evening are talking about the tragic events involving Veronica Butler and Jilian Kelley. In short, there are 5 defendants currently charged in relation to the murders of the 2 women, though they have not been convicted. 3 of them have taken plea deals so far. Everything is still unfolding. We just had preliminary hearing. So I think it's crucial to remember that even though we know what we know in this case, these individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We'll be exploring what's known so far, addressing any questions that have come up, questions that were in the Facebook group and on the YouTube community post, and focusing on fact-based information while keeping the victims, as always, at the heart of the story. So with that, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our moderators who always help keep the chat very respectful, and they're just so supportive to us. Just a reminder, as always, that discussion involving minors is off limits. And I do ask everyone to remain kind and considerate towards each other. Regardless of any differing viewpoints or what you think of each other, just be kind in my chat and respect Tara and I, at least with that part. I'd appreciate it. And then I also hope that you all had a very peaceful Christmas and a bright start to the new year. If this holiday season was your first without a loved one, please know that my heart truly does go out to you. I know how difficult it was, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us tonight. So that's it. Thank you again for being here. Your presence and your support really do mean the world to us. So let's get started. We have, real quick, with a $5 super chat starting it off. I did set a goal tonight.
What's the goal? Because I got screwed on the
You're
last
not going to
goal.
sing this time, I promise. This goal, we will do another live within the next week. And I think it'd be for the first time ever, we will do just complete call-ins and open panel. So anybody that wants to discuss it from our Facebook group, from our YouTube community, you're welcome to come up on the panel with us at that time. And I'll also have the phone line open. So that's all it'll be. It's just you guys conversing with us, and let's talk about it. So that's what will happen with that super chat goal. I think I covered everything to start us off. Anything you think of?
No, the only thing I think I would add is that if you are in the chat, some people in the chat may not know what a mod is. It's a moderator. There are the lovely little names with the little cool wrenches next to them. Shenanigans is one. That's me. Yep is one. There's I don't know who else is in there that's modding for us tonight, but so those are the folks that if you get out of line, if they'll catch you before we do. So just saying. And I will say it. I know Kari doesn't like to, but I put it out there. If you're another creator from another channel, you are welcome to join the chat. Doesn't matter if you agree with us or not. It's just best to put yourself out there and be a part of it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be attacked. We're not going to tolerate things like that. You're welcome. So please make yourself known. And if you are not, I know I've had a couple of people that have contacted me asking, how do I create or how do they get into the chat? So we can, if you want, message me or Kari, we can help you with those instructions. They're not lengthy, but they're just a pain in the butt. That way, if you want to be a part of the chat, you certainly can be later.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for adding that because I did forget to say that. Yep. Everybody is welcome here. Truly, everybody is welcome. We just ask that everybody is kind in the chat to each other, to Tara and I, and minors are off limits. And those are really the basic rules. And those are about the only rules, I think.
Well, I'm going to add on to
you.
that. I know the preliminary is out there.
Yes.
And while names were put out there because it was a preliminary and they did use real names, we still will not use real names. We will still stick to the initials. So just because preliminary proceedings put those names of those minors out there doesn't mean we're going to do that here. We're back in the real life, not the courtroom.
Yep. Placeasm, thank you so much for your $1.99 super chat. I appreciate that. And real quick, let me address Dog Mom. She said, I absolutely love you ladies. I just want everybody to know I'm going through some things right now and I need some prayers. I'm not able to join tonight, but I will definitely play catch up. So Dog Mom will be thinking of you. And if there's anything Tara and I can do, please reach out to us. All right. So let's get started. So these questions were all taken from the Facebook group and from the YouTube community post. Obviously, I couldn't put them all in here. We'd be here all night long. There was so many questions, but hopefully we can answer all of them for you as factually as possible. And then if you have any questions in the chat, feel free to put those questions in there. We'll do our best. So we'll start with the first one. What does life with 30 years suspended mean? So Cora Twombly at the preliminary, she accepted a plea deal for life in prison with 30 years suspended. Did I write that right? Plus 10 years for count number 5, and $1,000 fine. So she did have 2 charges of kidnapping that were dropped. Basically what that means is that she will spend 40 years in prison, I believe, before she will be eligible to get out. So it's life with all suspended except for 30. So if after she gets out of prison and she messes up, she does anything like that, she's going straight back and finishing out her life sentence. That's what that means.
I'm glad you can define that because I wish they would just be more clear about that. When we heard that in the courtroom, it was hard to kind of figure out
anytime
what
they
the hell it
say
was.
suspended sentence, then that just means if you mess up while you're on probation, parole, whatever it might be, they're sending you back to fulfill the entire sentence. So she has a life sentence, but it's all suspended except for those 40 years, 30 years on the murder charges, 10 more for the conspiracy to commit murder.
So she's going to serve 40 before she's eligible for parole. That's what we're getting at here.
That's correct. And I think Taraka, I don't know how to say that, but thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Taharka X, that's what I'm going for. And then AMT also. You guys are awesome.
AMT, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. So in 40 years, how old will Cora be? How old is she right now? Do you remember?
I think she's in her 40s. So we're looking around 70 years, 70 something, I think is where she'll be at. And let me pull my phone over. People can correct me on that because I don't mind being corrected. So if you've got a better answer than that, let me know. My phone is open.
In her 40s.
I think so. I want to say she's within all of these folks are within our age range, Kari. There's somewhere between
AMT said 44. That sounds
That's
somewhere
about right.
She's going to be in her 70s at least before she would be, really eligible. Now, I know that there was talk about what the 85% rule is. Was that so she may only have to serve 85% before, but even so, she's just going to be in there for a long time. And as far as concurrent or consecutive, no, we don't know that until their sentencing hearing.
Correct. At least it wasn't verified or clarified or confirmed or anything. Like the judge just literally said what Kari's got on the screen here. So confirmed 44. Thank you. Yep. And if just for funsies, if you can't, I'd really like to see how do you know that's confirmed? Because That way we can note it down somewhere because I know it's in our notes somewhere and I can't ever
Yeah, her
remember.
date of birth's all over documents and stuff that we have. I
Yeah.
just looked like a week ago, but yeah, she's right around there. And yes, parole could be denied.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Sure
Tiffany,
can.
that's right. Tiffany has not pled guilty.
Correct. So oh my gosh, I was gonna try to say it.
Yeah?
Taharka X. She's at work, so she'll do the replay. We appreciate that very much on the replay. Question is, has there been any information about Jillian's gun? And the second question, did Tiffany actually plead guilty, like formally? Answer to the second question is no. That's coming up here. We're going to cover that here in a second. As far as Jillian's gun, I do not believe it has been located. Do you remember? I know we had this discussion a couple weeks ago, Kari. We were trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
the question's in here. No, it has not been. But
Okay.
yeah, that question was in here. So was there more than one knife found? I'm not sure like where that came from, but many people ask that. There was a black K-bar knife in the sheath,
Yeah.
and that was found at the burial site. It's the only knife that has been recovered according to the court documents.
So I think
one knife.
the question came from Tad's attorney during the preliminary. She was going on about when she was drilling Paul, and I mean she was, in my opinion, she was drilling him and he held strong to her. She was making a comment about two separate knives because of something in the and there was something in the Facebook group message, or the Facebook group, where somebody said that they thought the autopsies had indicated there was one size of knife used on one of the women and then a different on the other one. I went back through the autopsies. I could see how that can be read, but that's not what it means. The injuries have varying depths and widths to them, which is indicative of if it's they have different terms if it's longer than it is wide or more wide than it is long. And that's where some of that was being stemmed from.
Yeah. And then also at the preliminary, Todd's attorney said there's only your DNA on the knife, correct, Paul? And he said that's correct.
Yes.
So when she was trying to say that he had also murdered Jillian.
Yeah.
So just one knife, and that was recovered as far as we know.
Yes.
Do we think there will be more arrests? Now,
depends on who you ask.
Yeah, the chat, feel free to give your opinions on that too. So as far as more arrests, do I think there will be? Probably not. Do I think there should be? Probably so.
I still get torn on this one because I'd like to think that preliminary would have outed some other folks. I know that there were some names mentioned that were part of the group meetings, but not part of the planning of March 30th. And so I don't know. Should there be? Based on what we know, maybe.
Right.
But I don't think we have all the information yet. I think we're still still missing some stuff. And was there a knife found at Tad's house? If it wasn't pivotal
We
to the
don't have
case.
any search warrant results from
No.
Tad's
Yeah,
house.
there's nothing that now the warrants for Tad's house were for arrest, not searching, I think, if I remember correctly. So and I've asked this question with authorities, and unless when they go to arrest a suspect, unless there's something within the immediate area of the person they are going to arrest on the search warrant, then they don't search the house.
Yes. But yeah, as far as like a return search warrant from any of the homes, I've not seen that. Have you?
No, the search warrants were for the burial ground.
Yeah.
And
that
there's
vehicles.
Yep, the vehicles.
Like that. But there weren't homes.
No, the homes were not included. Those were just arrest warrants. So they have to.
Right.
Were there things found at Tad's? Probably. But they
were the home searched? Probably, but we don't have that information yet.
Right.
Will Tifany Adams have a jury trial? Most likely, if she does not get a plea deal. And whether or not she's going to get a plea deal, I don't know. I hope not, but
if she does, it better be life at the very least. Now, she did waive her right she waived her right for preliminary, but not a speedy trial.
Correct. Correct.
Hers is different, which is indicative.
She's not saying she's guilty. She just waived the preliminary hearing.
Yeah. So I wondered about that because Tifany did that first thing on Tuesday morning. The first thing that they did is identified who was there as far as the defendants. They identified their legal representation and immediately said, okay, so Tifany's got an announcement. They announced she was waiving her preliminary, but not her speedy trial. Now, Cora and Paul waived speedy trial and preliminary, and they both have deals. So I'm curious if they, I'm curious about this one.
The way it seemed to work out was they received their deal from the DA, and then, as soon as it was like their turn in the court, then they, they walked away. So
yeah, like
I
pastry
don't know
to
if
bounce.
Tifany received a deal as well or not. I don't know.
Well, I kind of wonder if she did. I kind of wonder if she did not. You remember when we were in the courtroom in September, and her attorney was pleading with the judge, "Hey, we need more time. December's too soon for preliminary. We have thousands upon thousands of pieces of evidence to sort through. We want separated preliminaries so we can figure out which evidence applies to our client and not the other clients." And the judge is like, just do your job, and your job is to make this happen. So we're going forward. So I'm curious if maybe he told her, hey, don't even do the preliminary. There's no point to it. These charges are going to stick based on the evidence we've
you're
seen
fried.
so far. Yeah, this isn't going to work. We have better chances of really getting after it in a trial. But man, wouldn't it suck for Tad if she took a deal and he was the only one left standing? Because that would fry him for sure.
Yeah, it would.
Because
really would.
he seemed a little surprised that she jumped on the preliminary, that she scooted out of there. But so I'm curious.
Debbie, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. We're getting there. 5 more to go. And then what we're going to do is do a live where we're just have call-ins, let you guys up on the panel with us. You won't have to show your faces or anything. And we'll all discuss every aspect of the case.
Ooh, there's a really good one. Where is it? I just saw this one. I can't see much incentive to give Tifany a plea or Tad. I can't see much incentive to give any of them a plea deal, given what we heard in the preliminary. And so it's I find it interesting that some are and some aren't. And Kari and I have looked at the legal team, the prosecution. And there's Buddy Leach has got a long history of making plea deals, and maybe that's his goal here. I don't know, but it's a really interesting thing to say because I agree. None of them should get a plea deal. They should all face the ultimate consequences. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I don't think they should have got plea deals either, but that's all right.
That's why we're not attorneys, huh?
Yeah. How did they get Veronica to turn off the highway? Well, all we know is the testimony that was given. According to Paul, and Terry, you can add to this if you want to.
I will.
But according to Paul, Tifany spoke with Veronica by phone a couple of times immediately before the murders as they were traveling to the location. She told Veronica where they were and for her to pull up behind the trailer. When they did so, Paul was waiting inside the trailer. Veronica was told that her 2 children were in that trailer petting a calf or a new calf, something like that. I mean, I would have gone in it too. So that's kind of how they lured her into it. And Paul was waiting inside that trailer when they did that. So how Tifany was able, first of all, she would have called her from a burner phone. So, who knows what excuse she made for that. But I feel like red flags might have gone off in Veronica's head at that point, just knowing her history with Tifany. But yeah, she was able to convince them to pull over at that spot. What do you want to add to that, Tara?
Yeah, there was communication at some point between Veronica and Tifany regarding changing the meeting place. And then I think that's why the kidnapping charges were probably lifted on all of them. I think they were all lifted on all of them. But that, yeah, she willingly pulled the car over. She willingly got out. She willingly went into the trailer because the children were used as a decoy to get her in there so that they could carry on the plan. So I think that's all there is to that one, quite honestly. That's how they got her out of the car and Jillian as well.
Yeah. Um,
And I did get a text in
and
that said about the sentencing, the wording. Somebody thought the wording was life with all suspended but 30 years, which would make sense because she's got to serve the 30 and the 10. So that's
correct.
probably, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Uh, Plasasm. I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. I probably butchered it. Thank you so much for becoming a new member.
I'm going to
We
let
really
you do that
appreciate
one.
that. um, I don't think Tifany called Veronica from a burner phone. Those phones were used for the conspirators, and using one to call V would have been very obvious and traceable. But they left their phones at home.
So maybe there was a call the night before or something
Well,
that
no,
said,
because he said
hey,
she called on the way there that morning. She made multiple calls, and Paul said that he even spoke with Cora as
oh,
well.
yeah, they had called each other. I have to look at my notes. I'm sure there was a call to Veronica and one to, I know he remembers the one that was the call with Cora was one that he specifically said he could hear Cora's voice and knew
Hmm.
it was Cora's voice. And then yeah, the call was made on the burner phone. You're right, because Paul made the comment that either he heard Veronica's name being said by Tifany or he heard her voice. It was one of the two. So there was a call there. What lie Tifany made up to cover the burner phone, and I'll look back at my notes. About a quarter of my notes have been transcribed. Holy crow!
Yeah,
There's
I
only
read
38
earlier, and
pages.
he did say that Tifany did call Veronica a few times on the way. So that's what he testified to anyway. But as far as like whether she would use a burner phone or a regular phone, they left their phones at home. They
I
knew they
think
would be
so.
traced. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'll go back through my
Um,
notes again. I'm still meandering through
Matt's
them.
wife said, "I'm just curious. Don't you have to inform the judge about changing the meeting place?" Apparently not. I don't think it was like I don't think anybody really cared. I'm just gonna say the way I feel. It doesn't appear that that was a um, something that the courts were obviously very concerned about since Veronica
Right.
had reached out multiple times for help, and that was all denied.
So I'll speak to this one based on my divorces. You can have a decree, a court decree, and you can say, like in this particular instance, the Four Corners was the agreed upon meeting location to exchange the children. That is a court order that states if you two, if nothing else, this is where you guys have to meet. If you guys can't, and it doesn't say that in the court order, right? It's one of those things where if Veronica calls, Tifany says, hey, I'll just pick them up at half a mile from your place, just walk them over there. Tifany could be like, oh, okay, that's fine by me. If they agree to a different location, that's fine. There's no penalty for not meeting at Four Corners. So that's one of
Right.
those, and not a lot of people know that. A lot of people use those court decrees as a means of saying, nope, we have to do it this way. There's no other way about, and there's nothing wrong with that. With my court decrees, with like my parenting plan, we didn't follow it, not at all. It was just the
No.
last resort.
And like Scraggle said, probably not required to notify the court if the parties agreed.
Right.
And so, how did Jilian Kelley get into the trailer? That's a good question. All we know is what testimony was given, really. And according to Paul's testimony, Tad and Tifany grabbed Jilian. He said they were both screaming.
Mhm.
He said he heard fainting screams and gasps from
Yes.
Jilian. He later stated that Jilian was loaded into the trailer, but he doesn't know who killed her other than it had to be Tad and Tifany. He was also already inside the trailer, according to him. And then the way it made it sound, correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, was like he was already in the trailer. They shut the doors on him, and like he looked over and there was Jillian, kind of thing. Is that the way you took it?
Yeah, he started off in the trailer. Veronica poked her head in. He started the attack. She ran. He ran after her. Um, they're on the ground, struggling with one another. He begins more aggressively attacking her. He hears, he said he didn't see it, but he did hear um, something going on specifically, those fainting screams and those gasps. And
Mm.
there was a way he specifically put it, and I put it in my notes, and I thought it was unusual the way he said it. He didn't actually see them. I think there was one of the two, Cora or Paul, said that they saw. I think they said they saw Jillian being grabbed by Tad or Tifany, or thought it had to be them because there was nobody else available to do it. And they dragged her into the trailer. And then when Paul was done attacking Veronica, Tad helped him load Veronica into the trailer. He gets in there from the side door. The door's shut behind him and locked. He can't get out, and he realizes Jilian is there. So he was in there to start with. He got out, got back in, and between him getting out and getting back in, Jilian was in the trailer, but she was unconscious and unresponsive.
And I just gifted 5
Saw
memberships.
That is awesome.
That's what I was doing. Sorry.
That's your good. I'm like, oh look, she's not gonna. I knew what you were doing because I saw it come through. You're good. I should have just kept talking like I knew what was going on. So that's how that went down.
Will Tad get off his charges? So I put the charges that he has. There's 7 of them. Will he get off of those? That's just kind of a personal opinion. No, I don't think no, I don't think he's going to get. But his attorney did say that it is still potentially a death penalty case with him.
Yes. Now, will he go? I don't know. I saw the wrong sites before this, but will he go to trial here in a couple weeks? Unlikely.
Yes, definitely.
I don't think his trial will not start this month.
Be May or June of next year, I believe, is what they said it most likely would be.
Yeah, there was a bit of a back and forth between the legal teams and the judge about Tad's next steps. And the legal team knew they were taking a risk. They made it clear they understood the risk about going ahead and proceeding with a January date. The judge suggested they waive speedy trial, and they said, no way, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. So they said, well, fine, we'll take the January date. We're coming in with a memo, which will basically say, we disagree with the charges. We're asking for continuance, that kind of shenanigans taking place, and they'll probably move it to the next available date, which, to Kari's point, is probably going to be late spring, early summer.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, just because the way that the DA has done the plea deal so far, I don't see the death penalty at all. I don't think he's going to get the harshest of all. I really don't.
I don't know. I think with Paul's testimony and Cora's testimony, and I'm interested to see what Cole says.
I think a lot of it's going to weigh on the medical examiner because Paul is the only one saying that Tad told him days later that he tried to break Jillian's neck. However, what killed her was the knife. So if he's saying he didn't, and he did say he didn't see Tad do anything to her. So I think a lot of it's going to be on the medical examiner's testimony, I believe. And will Tifany or Cole testify to what Tad's role was?
They'll have to.
So far, we've only heard Cora and Paul.
Yeah, I think all of them will have to testify in order to keep their plea deals. I'm sure that's part of the deals. They have to testify at anybody's trial. With Tad's situation regarding Jilian, I think that will be interesting with the medical examiner specifically, because Paul did testify about Tad telling him and Tifany telling him later there was an attempt to break Jillian's neck, but they don't believe it was successful because it was at a weird angle, is what they said. I'm curious as to the medical examiner and how they're going to be able to say whether or not her neck was broken, causing paralysis before Paul administered his attack on her. And so that's going to be a big, but again, the first 2 charges are murder in the first degree, deliberate intent. So I don't know if it's really about the activity as much as the intent. Maybe we need to see what the definition is of those 2 particular charges, because if they can just prove he had intent, is that enough versus the activity it took to complete the intent?
Yeah, and like Yep said, if you take a plea deal, I think you said it too, Tara, generally you'll have to testify. So, and that's why they're given, part of the reason why they're given those plea deals is so they will testify against others.
Agreed. Well, between Cole and Cora and Paul, all of those charges could probably stick pretty easily. And if Tifany flips and she's also testifying, I think his goose is cooked, quite honestly. I don't see how he can get away unless they start lying on the stand left and right. And that'll be interesting because one attorney is going to, will tear apart another attorney because I don't think they do these trials together. But I think between the DA's team and the defense team, I think it'll be an interesting back and forth. I don't know that Tad will hold his own the way Paul did. Tad's typically
Hmm.
told what to do and doesn't have much for thinking on his own. He usually has somebody backing him up. So that'll be interesting if he makes it to the trial.
Yeah. Um, any speculation as to why Beasley was asked about meth use in the past and if he used during March with no other questions during cross? My speculation is that Tad's attorney is going that I think there's something to do with drugs were found or that there's
Mhm.
something to do with that, and then that is going to be further brought up during the trial.
Agreed. I think that's part of the DA's strategy, and I would do the same thing. Is in when it's like debate. If you've been in debate class or forensics class, the back and forth debate, not the science debate, but if um if you know what the argument is from your opponent, you beat them to the argument. So in this case, I think Buddy Leach knew the defense would bring up, hey, you're a meth user, right? So how do we know you're telling the truth? So Buddy beat them to the chase. You've used meth before, right? When have you used it? Did you use it during this time? He had to establish that Beasley
Yeah,
was not under the
that's
influence
why I
at the
think it
time.
will. That's why I think it is going to be brought up in
Hmm.
the future.
Oh
There,
yeah.
otherwise, there was no reason at all. Like, I mean, that was very out of the blue. So
Yeah.
it's a piece to the puzzle somewhere,
Hmm.
or they're trying to make that piece of, fit a puzzle. So
Well, and there's been a lot of chatter about drug use
there has.
amongst some of
Mhm.
these defendants too. So it's again, we didn't get to see everything, but I think that'll be something. And poor Beasley, if he's cross-examined, oh, I can't, that
Oh
it will
boy.
be that man. That'll be a hard testimony to watch. It'll be a hard exchange to watch. Oops, I'm hitting my microphone.
Was Jillian's gun ever found? We already covered this earlier, but no, it wasn't. Not to our knowledge. It's not been listed in anything. So no, not found. Unless it was found at one of the homes and we don't have a return search warrant for that.
Agreed.
Beasley's testimony wasn't all that consequential anyway.
Well, no, but he does establish that Tad was out there prior to Tad was out there potentially after he slept through most of that time that Tad was out there when the bodies were being where they were being buried. And so he does put Tad out there on the property, which is what the DA needed to do, and the prosecution couldn't argue it, at least not in the preliminary trial. So that's and part of these trials, right? They look very similar to Hollywood. You got to prove means and motive and opportunity, and that's what a lot of this preliminary was about, was proving those three things as best they could to get those charges to stick.
Yeah,
There you are. I was like, where did you go?
I was trying to undo the comment on the screen. Sometimes I'm a little slow. I'm still like, don't have my picture on the screen and all that because my son just left this morning. So I'll have my office back. Like tomorrow, I'll have my office back. So I'm sorry that I just have my little profile picture up there. But Place hasn't said he knows more. I go back and forth on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if he
I
does or
think
not.
I think Buddy was surprised when he showed Beasley a picture of the skid steer, and
Yeah,
Buddy couldn't recognize it as the one that Tad was using on his property. So I think that was kind of threw everybody off course on
it sure
on the
did.
D team.
Yep, it
Didn't
sure
seem
did.
like it
Like
was
you're
expected
the
at all.
state's witness and they're showing you the skid steer picture
Yep.
and you don't recognize it. I think there was like, oh, our mouths kind of dropped.
Yeah, I was expecting him to say, "Oh yeah, that's his," and he's like, "I don't know." So
Right. The Veronica and Jillian's phones, were they found? No, they have
no,
not been. They have not been found. I don't know if you want to add any more to that, Tara, but
no, I don't
or if
know
there
what.
is anything. Yeah.
I don't know if there is a strong hunt for them or what's going on with that, but no, they have not been found. It would be interesting because I'm sure there's some things on there that would go to not be
Hmm.
helpful to the defense, no matter who the defense is.
Yeah, it seems like they must have really gone out of their way to get rid of these phones even
Yeah.
after Cora did everything she did with them. So what, she wrapped
Yeah.
them in foil,
Yep.
wrapped them in a What was that
Well,
gun thingy majigger?
she crushed them with a
She
cinder
crushed
block,
them. I
and then
mean,
she wrapped them in tin foil, put them in an ammo can, and all of that was to make sure that if they were crushed, but they weren't completely destroyed, they weren't completely disabled, then the tin foil and the ammo can would keep the phone from pinging beyond, so it would disable it essentially, so if the phones ping somewhere along the way, that ping would not be captured by a cell phone tower. That was the whole, but what they did with it, don't know.
right, and I wonder why they went to such extremes to get rid of those as well. I'm
I do
really curious
too.
about that.
I know there was from the notes that I received from others that were we missed this part of the testimony, but from the notes that were given to me, Cora did testify that after she took the phones, smashed them, put tinfoil around them, put them in the ammo can, she had them in her truck with her. Her role was then to, after all the attacks were said and done, to take Tifany back to Tifany's house. And it sounds like she gave the ammo can to Tifany, and then she later testified, or she also testified rather, that Tifany told her she buried the phones in uh, a post hole under a fence, like the fence post. So they're supposedly buried out there somewhere, according to what Tifany told Cora. That's all Cora knew about those phones. So
Right, and hopefully that answers your question. Get to ducking point is that Cora claims she does not know where Tifany buried them,
she didn't
but
have
that
them.
Tifany had buried them, I guess.
Yeah, Tifany took them, and I don't know when. I guess that makes a little bit of sense. When Cora first started testifying, she said her role during the entire exchange, during the entire execution of the plan, was to get the phones, destroy the phones, wrap the phones, put the phones in the ammo can, and then she did
I
all
mean,
that.
they
But
went to more effort in those phones than they did some of the other stuff. Yep, said such a great plan.
yeah, these are the same folks who took burner phones to have them repaired at a local repair shop. This is the same stupid criminals. So,
Mhm. Hi,
oh,
Sunflower. Thank you for being with us.
hello, Sunflower.
So, were 2 knives found? We've kind of already answered this as
No.
well. No, just the one knife in its sheath, in the burial site with the women. So
Yep.
it was found in there. And these are all pictures from there, by the way.
Yeah.
These aren't just like fake imeges.
This
I
is
thought maybe I
this is
should point
actually
that out.
these
These
are
are
case
actual
related.
images.
These this is the real thing.
That is a picture Tara got early on of Paul's truck there at Four Corners
The day
when
that
he
he
was arrested,
surrendered.
right?
Yeah.
Surrendered, yep.
Yep.
So was Paul legally married? No.
Mm-mm.
Are they still together? We don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We think.
They do have children together.
Yeah.
Was she present at court? No.
I don't think so. I don't
No.
think Paul had anybody there. I'm not
No.
sure.
He might have had a couple, I'm not sure, but definitely not his partner, no. And did she attend the Misfits meetings prior to the plan of the murder? Yes, she did
Yes,
attend those
she
with
did.
them. So I know that I was gonna get ahead of myself, but I know there's another question about it. Did Tad stab Jillian 16 times or did Paul? I think that's maybe one of the bigger questions, really. And I think the only way I don't know. I don't know. Paul told OSBI that he did stab her a few times, but then he doesn't remember how many times,
Mhm.
and that he possibly could have stabbed her that many times.
Yeah,
So, and he says he didn't see Tifany or Tad stabbing her.
correct.
He didn't see them do anything to her. But after the fact, days later, Tad tells him that he had, and I can't remember the exact wording, attempted to break her neck
Mm.
or did break her neck. One of the two. Which one was that, Tara? Do you
He
remember?
tried to break her neck, but they were
Tried
at,
to.
it was at a weird angle, so he
That's
wasn't
right.
sure. There was, during Paul's testimony, he talked about how he thought after all was said and done, he was the only one in the trailer. He had essentially attacked both women, and he felt he started getting emotional prior to anything happening. So he's running on heightened emotions. He's emotionally charged. He's got adrenaline going everywhere in his body. He's had a panic attack, and he thought maybe he'd been set up. He wanted to prove to himself whether or not he was set up. So he had talked with Cole and Cora, Paul, Tad, and Tifany, and it's like, oh yeah, so like she woke up and she attacked me. She went for my gun, so I attacked her back with the knife, and That's when Paul testified that Tad had told him, well, I give her credit. That's more of a fight than she put up with me. Paul
Yeah.
did testify there was not but a few drops of blood near Jillian's head. She was unconscious. She was backed up to the front of the trailer. She was face downward. Like she was not on her face, but she was facing in a way that her face was kind of downward. And because he wasn't sure about whether or not, she had a pulse, he wasn't sure if the trailer was making her move because it was a chaotic drive. It was bumpy. He says he did stab her. He doesn't remember. He thought it was only a few times. Tad's attorney had asked, if you were told you had stabbed her 16, would you be surprised? And he said, no. He says, I did stab her, but I don't know if I killed her, because he was not sure with the way she was presenting in the trailer what injuries she had already incurred. She just knew that he just saw that she had a couple drops of blood by her head, but nothing that indicated to him that she he didn't understand what her injuries were or how severe they were. And so his stabbing her was more of a mercy type thing, because he didn't want to, he said he couldn't stand the idea of her
Her,
being
like,
being
waking up
alive
in that freezer or
with
still being alive.
Veronica and
Yes.
buried, and he said he couldn't handle that, and he knew there was no way to stop the plan, so he went forward with attacking her to
Right.
make sure everything was all said and done. And so that's the back and forth. This is where Paul was really, I thought he was kind of almost an asshole to Tad's attorney, but she was aggressive with him
Mhm.
back and forth, because she wanted Paul to say, you ended Jillian's
Right, and
life.
he
And he's
wouldn't
like,
do
I
it.
can't say that because I don't
Mhm.
know what her status was. I just thought in case. And she
Yeah, and
couldn't
he
get
never
him to say
said
it.
that he didn't, that he wasn't the one. He just said, "I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I
Yeah.
truly don't know." So,
He's not sure. He said if he could, he would, but he just can't. He doesn't know for sure. And I think the medical examiner's report is not going to be helpful in that one either. I don't know.
right.
It'll be
No.
interesting.
Sunflower said, "I'm so glad to see all and hear your voices, Kari. I hope you managed to have a nice Christmas. I
Aw.
know it was not normal, but no, I thought about you often." Thank you so much, Sunflower. It was the most horrible holidays I've ever had in my life, and I just tried to get through it, as I'm sure many others had to do
Mhm.
too. But I am definitely one of those that tries to wake up and every day and say today's a new day. So hopefully tomorrow will be better than today, kind of thing. And but thank you so much. I appreciate all of you guys that have thought about me, messaged me. It really does mean a lot, and it really helps too.
Mhm. It's
Um,
very kind.
Gold said, but if Paul testified, now Tad or Cole can say what they want and have Paul take the blame. Kind of
Um,
what I'd said too. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, now they've heard the testament. Now Cole did
Cole can't
not
testify
hear.
to much. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't there on the site. He was down at Four Corners standing lookout.
Hmm.
And Cora's testimony lined up pretty well with Paul's, because she didn't see the attack on Jillian either.
Right.
Um, and so but he did say, Paul did testify, if he could say that he had definitively ended Jillian's life, he would. He just was not sure, because he couldn't tell if there was a pulse prior to him attacking her or not. He said that, but and he made it clear he was just too emotional. He was too worked up. He was scared. He was panicked. None of this is justifiable to his actions whatsoever. He was trying to make an explanation, because he's very clear on what happened with Veronica. So I'm prone to believe that he has I think some of his memory is going to be a little bit jarred because of his human response to it. At the
Hmm.
same time, um, I think he did stab her 16 times, and he just does not remember. I think that
And
when the
that's
body
possible. That is possible.
yeah. But
I
he
mean,
didn't think he stabbed Veronica that many times either.
no.
Veronica suffered 30 stab wounds, and he didn't think he had done that.
Well,
So
in a fit of
his
a rage, I mean, just a I would say regular rage, but not a rage where you're killing somebody. You do kind of black out a little bit. You do tend to forget.
Yeah.
And I imagine in a rage like this, yeah, it
Mhm.
would be kind of hard to remember.
Well, even when we are in our everyday lives and something just absolutely makes us
Yes.
super, super mad, and we just kind of fly off the hinge, maybe our kid does something really stupid or whatever, our spouse or our person, and they come back, we're like, you are just out of control. And you're like, I said
Right.
that, I did that.
Yeah.
What? So I've never attacked somebody in this fashion, but I can't imagine that you remember every stinking little detail either. So I don't, I can see why Paul doesn't have all the memory that defense or the prosecution would like for him to have.
Definitely. And real quick, Cat Mom and Maxine, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Cat Mom. Hi, Maxine.
So,
We got
what
some.
is the totality of evidence that others may have been involved? Shoo.
Oh gosh, we don't know. It's hard to say.
So, yeah, as far as involved, I guess it would depend on how involved. Did they know beforehand? Did they know after? They didn't report it. I mean, we know a few. So, Lacey Cook did bandage Paul's finger.
Mhm.
Paul's partner also helped bandage his finger.
Yeah.
And that was right afterwards. So, he did say that he did tell his partner right away what
Mhm.
had happened. To our knowledge, she did not report or turn it in, but also to our knowledge, there are no charges against her
Right.
or the cooks either. So,
Yeah, and Paul was asked if his plea deal was
right, that's right.
if his wife was given immunity or if she received a plea deal as long as he testified, and he said he was not, he had no knowledge of anything regarding his wife in the legal processes, so he was not sure. Um, so it's and now if so there's a thing here too, right, with others being involved. That's Yep, makes a really good point when
Loaded
she says
question.
loaded question. And so being involved and having knowledge, a couple different things. And so people could have knowledge and not call it in. That kind of makes them jerks, big time. I have other words for that, but I probably shouldn't say them on the air. But having knowledge and not providing that knowledge ahead of time, that's problematic in legal terms, right? So, were others directly involved as far as the preliminary is concerned? No, there was just these five. But did others have knowledge? I think is a much more interesting question. Who
Yes,
knew?
for sure. I was looking for
I know I saw
the
something back.
document here.
Wasn't there something that identified Paul's DNA on Veronica and Tad's on Jillian? I'm thinking it was when the preliminary coroner's reports came out. Yes, if memory serves, they
So in
each
the
had
original probable cause, it stated Tad killed Jillian, Paul killed Veronica.
right.
But in court, Tad's attorney said it is only your DNA on the knife. Is that correct? And Paul said that is correct.
Yes. But we have to remember too, Paul admitted he lied to OSBI while he was on
Multiple
the
times.
stand being questioned. There's two interviews. He lied during both of them, stating that one had attacked Veronica, the other Jillian, and then he was coming clean at the preliminary, saying, "This is what I know happened," type of thing. And so, but there's also a couple things to consider. It would be easy to believe that both the women's DNA were on both Tad and Paul because they had to move the bodies into the freezer. And there's
Right.
DNA everywhere. So just
And it gets
attacking
mixed and
somebody, it
stuff too.
does. Yeah, so just attacking somebody is not the only way to get that DNA on you. They had to Veronica was or Jillian was in the freezer first, and then Veronica, they had to take Veronica out of the trailer because they had to use the skid steer to help load her into the freezer.
Jesus.
So you have to remember that they tried to load Veronica originally and they couldn't do it. They had to use the assistance of the skid steer. So they were handling these women. It wasn't just attacks. They were moving them about after the attack. So it would be fair to believe they were both covered in DNA, which is why they were totally naked once all was said and done. They both left Beasley's property after Tad buried the women. They were both naked, except one of them was wearing socks. I think that was Paul was wearing his socks. He found a T-shirt in his truck, and he was still wearing his gun belt. And Tad was naked.
Mercy.
I know, isn't that kind of so? And that's how Paul presented his
It breaks
wife
my
and
heart
partner.
just thinking about the way they even loaded Veronica. That just I
Well,
hate to even have to talk about that. It's
right.
horrible.
Right.
It's
Well,
so
and you read the
insane.
autopsy because and that's how I was curious because when I read the autopsy, I was like, how did the dirt and hay get inside the damn freezer? That was how. That was how they had to take her out of the freezer and put her where the skid steer could get to her and did that. Ugh,
Horrible.
it is.
Sunflower said Paul could end up taking as much blame as Tifany. The children that were left devastated during this 12, maybe many more. Yes, they could over after the cooks because they know more.
Could
The
go
cooks
after maybe.
go
Maybe.
after the cook. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. They could go after the cooks because they know more. I mean, it's possible, but I just don't think that they're going to make any more arrests. I really don't. I think it is what it is. I don't necessarily personally agree with that. Just, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they had knowledge ahead of time. So if they did not have any, which I think is just really hard for a lot of us to understand, how would they not?
Yeah.
But nothing has been stated so far that says that they did. So I think that that's kind of what we have to go with and not our own feelings.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is my concern, Sunflower. Tad, Cora, Cole could get off very easy because Paul was the one who is taking most of the blame. And it did feel to me that Paul was taking a whole lot of the blame, really. Um, Cora and Cole are already getting off pretty easy. So now we just wait for Tad and Tifany, I guess, right?
Yeah, but again, I want to go back to see how the murder in first degree, intent. I want to know why the intent for all of them, if that's how they plan on either coaxing them into plea deals, or if because they all knew what the plan was and they were all moving forward with the plan, they all intended to ensure this plan would be carried out. If that's how they're trying to capture all of them under the same charges, so it's. But I don't know. With Cora's right there the entire time, and she could
Mhm.
have intercepted, stopped it, whatever. She could have never made the call that let them know that Veronica was on her way. Cole could have made the call to say, "Hey, I'm down here at Four Corners. You guys might want to go a few miles north of me." Anybody, every one of these five had an opportunity and the power to
Right.
see
To
this
stop it
plan
at
go to.
any
Yeah,
time.
and they didn't. So I don't know. Um, I hate to think that any one of them could walk away from this or get lesser time because it's in the emotional side of it, right? It's the human side of it. It's devastating, but logistically,
Mhm.
that's where the law sits at is logistics.
Yeah, and Shayna, that's true. I think that the question, and not that it's really going to matter probably as far as the law sees things, but just for me, I would want to know if that was my daughter, wife, whatever. I would just want to know those kind of things. But you're right. I mean, Paul couldn't do it both by himself.
Mm-mm.
Paul, it was his knife. He's the only one that had a knife. So unless Tad took that knife from him, Tad didn't stab her. So I guess the question is, did Tad break her neck outside of the trailer and then they put her in the trailer? And Paul saw her eyes flutter. He'd seen that she had urinated. He wasn't quite sure if she was deceased or not. And so that's when he said he did the mercy killing, I guess. So I
Yeah.
guess that's the question, and we might not ever truly know that answer unless the medical examiner testifies that the neck was broken first or broken, period,
Well,
but
and
was not caused by the knife, though, because the
right.
report reads it was caused by the knife wounds.
Yeah. And can the medical examiner, if they can, I know there's vertebral damage. There's damage to the vertebrae. That sounds
Mhm.
weird to say it the other way, but can the medical examiner definitively say this was due to manual or this was due to a tool? Like
I
that
think
thing.
they
That's
could. There would probably, yeah, because there would be things that they could see,
I would think
on the
so.
bones and things like that to know, was this a break or was this caused by a deep stab puncture kinda thing?
Right. And I don't know enough about neck injuries. That's probably something to research now that I'm saying that out loud and we're talking about it, kind of look into what it looks like, what those injuries, how they differ, how they're like, and um, kind of get back to everybody on that one. Not sure
Right.
how much is gonna matter. I think for Tad's defense, it'll matter a
Mhm.
lot if they can prove there was a manual injury to the neck that caused paralysis that gave the impression she was not alive, and that's where Paul came into play, or if the neck injury was much worse that Tad inflicted, and that was the end for her, and Paul just wasn't sure. Um, and it's I
Yeah,
think that'll
because basically, I mean, and feel free to disagree with me, but so Paul is getting life at least. Well, we don't know that. Paul has a death penalty taken off the table. We don't know how many years. We don't know any of that information. Cora is getting 40. Um, Cole on the paperwork, at least, it said what, 30.
yeah.
So, and they, according to testimony, they weren't actually involved in the actual act of killing them. So if they can prove that Tad was not involved in the actual act of killing them too, is Tad only going to get 30 or 40 years as well? Did that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't know, I think gosh, it's hard to know what the strategy is for the defense. Um, you have to wonder, why would Cole take 30 years if he supposedly didn't know anything? Um,
Right. And Sunset Girl, that's a good point. Tad obtained the land and buried them. So I wasn't, when I was thinking that through, I wasn't thinking about that part. So he did take it a step further
right.
than what Cora and Cole apparently did. So that might be
Um,
true.
well, and
That's
Tad
true.
had the land ahead of time. He'd been paying on that land for a
Yeah.
year, and he was re-upping the lease. And I think they thought, well, they'll never think to look here at Beasley's property. They'll never think to check this out. But I think Paul had a hand in letting them know where to go look, and then they Beasley didn't call anybody, but they showed up to him, which is what he thought. Hey, if they come to me, I'll spill my guts, but I'm not going to call anybody because I'm scared to death.
Yeah. Some players had questioned why did they lock Paul in that trailer with the ladies? That was not the plan, right? Or not. I still can't wrap my head around all they did. I knew it was horrible. This is horrific. When we were listening to Paul's testimony, it almost sounded like he was a little shocked that they shut the trailer doors with him in it. To me, did he seem to like that wasn't part of the plan? He was kind of taken by surprise that those doors were closed with him still inside of it.
I think he thought he was supposed to be right in the front of the truck, but nothing went to plan.
Right.
Nothing went to plan. I mean, they were not supposed to get outside that trailer. Um, they were supposed to be in the trailer. The attack was supposed to be in the trailer, but nothing went to plan. So
Yeah.
I think I think at that point they just start improvising because they weren't supposed there was supposed to be no DNA left behind there, and yet Paul went outside the plan with the knife, and they had to, with I don't I think the plan was not to have any DNA evidence left behind to make it look like they just went missing. We'll make up a story. They never showed up. They ran off together. Blah blah blah. Whatever. So I think at the time they shut the door on Paul that they were just improvising every step of the way by that point. I think the
Right.
only thing that did go to plan was grab the phones and you know crush them, wrap them up. I think that's the
And
only
that was
thing that
about it.
yeah, I think that was the
Right.
only thing that
That was
actually
about
worked
it.
out for them. Except they took burner phones in to be repaired because we're brilliant like that.
Texas RN, can they get out early for good behavior, etc.? I'm truly not 100% positive. I thought that there is in Oklahoma where if it is like a crime like such as this, a violent crime, that the 85% rule did not apply. But I'm being told that it does apply. And if it does, then that means they would serve 85% of their sentence, then they could be eligible for parole, whether that would be granted or not probably doubtful, but they could be eligible for it. And then that's what I'm saying with that suspended sentence. Say, for instance, one of them did get out on parole early, and they go and they screw up, doing any kind of screw up. They're going back to serve the rest of the sentence, which in Cora's case is life.
Correct. Agreed. What did I just see? I was scrolling up there for things I thought I found. Oh, I went too far. Didn't they prove? Did they prove Tad didn't have a knife? All that was said in court was nobody saw Tad with the knife.
Right. And then it's Paul. It was Paul's knife that was used.
Yes, it was Paul's knife. And Paul never stated he gave the knife to anybody else. He had
Yeah.
it the entire time.
The guy in the sun herding cattle in the field nearby. I don't know if they were interviewed or not, but they are not on the witness list. I don't believe that they saw much of anything. I believe they might have seen a trailer over there, possibly truck and trailer, but I don't think that they, if it's who I think you're talking about, I don't think they saw anything more than that. So they probably wouldn't be much of an asset to the state anyway. And I agree, Scraggles. They didn't care about Grice. They didn't care about him. And where are we at? Did I get through these for the most part?
See, I know I'm trying to work through them too. Jillian defensive wounds on her hands. No, Veronica did. Per the autopsy, Veronica had defensive wounds on her hands. Jillian had one on her cheek, and I think one on her arm. But again, if you look up defensive wounds, it's not necessarily because somebody was physically in the act of defending themselves. Sometimes it's about the location of where the wound was at. And so that's it's a fine line, and a guarantee that is something that Tad's defense, if he goes to trial, they'll try to fight off saying there's two defensive wounds. Clearly, she fought you type of thing. And I think that defense can come back and say, yeah, but per these other cases, per these other situations, they'll ask the ME or other medical experts, is it possible that a defensive wound can just be where a knife nicks something in an area that could be considered a defensive area? So that'll be an interesting blurred line to see all the legal teams go back and forth on.
And Shayna said, I don't think they can get out on good behavior for murder, even though it is part of a plea deal. That's my understanding, too. So any like violent kind of crime, but we need to look into that. We will find that answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, Maxine. Can't think these people were even human beings to do all this. That's kind of a good, funny question. Guthrie Okie. Yep. So how far off were the card readers from that night? Do you remember? Are you talking about like the psychics and stuff? Is that who you're talking about, Guthrie Okie? We watched one. I remember Rock and I watching her in the hotel room, and I can't remember her name. Basically, she was just saying that it wasn't safe for us, and we needed to get the heck out of there quick. That's about all I remembered of that one. I don't remember any of the others. We really didn't have time to watch any. I don't remember any others. If you guys remember what they said, let us know. Did you watch any of those, Tara?
I
Or did you hear any of the rumors early on about what they said? Or?
There was one I watched that felt strongly that a school was involved, and but I don't know.
That's right. That's why we went and searched the school. That's true. And they were kind of right on that one because they did live around the school.
We're responding to a text. Hold on, somebody sending stuff in. But that was the only one I was aware of because I tried to trace back to the one you guys had seen, the one that everybody's talking about. So that's the one I had seen. Was it
So this was another question on the sheath and the accessories for the knife. And again, they said when they searched Tifany and Tad's house, did they find the sheath and accessories for the knife that was found at the burial site? So the sheath and the knife were found at the burial site, but we don't have any information on return search warrants or even search warrants for their homes. So I'm unsure, but the question about the search warrants and stuff on the homes has come up multiple times. So I'm not really sure where that's coming from, honestly.
I think it's Facebook rhetoric. I think the search warrants and the arrest warrants are being confused because there's a lot of court documents and they're easy to
and
confuse.
Also, when you read an actual search warrant, and that was a mistake that was made a lot in the group. When you read an actual search warrant, so it says, it is believed that these items will be found, and a lot of people fail to read that it's believed that these items will be found. It doesn't mean that they are. It's what they were looking for at that site. That's why the reason why they got the search warrant was because they had good reason to believe that they would find those items,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be in that truck or at the burial site, whatever it might be. Those are the search warrants. And then at the bottom of those, once the search warrants come back, it will have a return search warrant returned at the bottom. And that is where it states what was found at those
Right.
places. So
Yep.
keep that in mind. One said there
Oh,
was somebody suffering by a schoolhouse. That's right, Sunshine, because
yeah.
that's when we went to an old schoolhouse out there and searched around that entire area. We had like brush up to our knees. I remember that. Yeah.
Gosh.
And yes, the judge does still have final say over any plea deals. There is still a lot of evidence to come out. Absolutely. The preliminary is just here's the tip of the iceberg kind of thing. Can we move forward with charging these people? That's all it is. That's all they had to put out was
Yep.
just enough for the judge to say whether the charges should move forward or not move forward. And
And
of
they
course they
did.
moved forward in all of
But
them.
with Tad, he had the official on the end of the preliminary because Cole ducked out on Wednesday morning and said, "Nah, peace out. I'm done. I'll waive speedy trial, waive my preliminary," and he got a deal. Tad was the end of Tad's was there is probable cause to hold these charges. These charges will stay. We're going forward, and so he's at this time he's going to trial, but I think that's what Tiffany's lawyer knew was going to happen. Knew the judge was
Right.
going to say the same thing, and Cole's attorney was like, "You're screwed too, buddy. Just duck out and become state's evidence, and pray to God you get out fast."
Right. Will Wrangler testify? My guess is probably not.
Oh, I think he will.
If he's going to testify to anything, it's going to be if he has knowledge of something that we don't know about yet, that he's talked to the DA about,
Mhm.
or if it's on the previous attempt. You remember in the probable cause it stated that he had told his grandmother that Tifany was basically going to take care of the situation. So, but I don't know if he will testify or not. Like I said, he's not on the witness list yet. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. What all do you think he could actually testify to, though, Tara? Like he wasn't even around during the time. Now
Well, if
he did live
they
with his mom, so he could
Mhm.
testify like, how her and Tad were up to the event, things like that,
Right.
what was going on in the home, possibly, things like that. If that stuff even would matter, though, I don't know.
So I think that his testimony, depending on what Tiffany's team does, but his testimony will go to the frame of mind of, okay, we're guilty, but this is why we did it. Like we did this, and we did this because these kids were in primal danger. They were in a lot of danger, and I could see them using Wrangler to be like, well, why didn't you want Veronica seeing your own kids? Why didn't you want them seeing their mother? Like they can use him to back up the whole, oh yeah, we had to get the kids away from Veronica because mom said that the kids were
Right.
being abused and all this SA was taking place, and I had to, do what was best for my kids. Now they have to be careful because there is a lot of rhetoric about Wrangler's activities as a father that
Mm-hmm.
they're not proven. That's a lot of water cooler talk. So they would have to tread lightly when they do that, because that's the kind of thing that'll come bite you on the backside if you're not careful. Because
Oh, yes.
all they got to do is the defense says, yeah, we're going to pull Wrangler on the stand, and he's going to go to our storyline, and
Mm-hmm.
then the defense is like, go ahead, we will discredit him with our own witness who can say these things. And so it would be an interesting it's just you go right back to almost like a child custody right there on the stand with Wrangler in the middle of it between defense
Right.
and
As an
prosecution.
adult. Yeah.
So I can easily see him doing that.
Again, the knife. Are the knife wounds, do they match one knife? Do K-bar knives have an individual carving? I don't know if they have individual carving, but all we know is that only one knife has ever been mentioned and that the owner of that knife is Paul.
Hmm.
So we don't have any reason to believe that there was more than one knife.
No, and I think the autopsies just indicate a sharp force,
Right.
sharp force object. Sharp force trauma, I think is what it was. I have to go back and look, but and it doesn't identify specifically what kind of knife was used. It just indicates the dimensions of the wounds that were endured by Veronica and Jilian.
So this next question, if Jillian was in the trailer with Paul, where was Veronica's body? Was it in Cora's truck? Now this is kind of a question I've had. Was it in Cora's truck since her daughter had to clean blood out of the truck? Where did that blood in her truck come from? If Cora and well, Tifany rode with Cora,
Hmm.
but Cora apparently, according to her, didn't get, she I don't think she would have gotten any blood on her hands, really. Nothing enough that would need a truck cleaned out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I had that question. I still have that question. But what I can tell you is just what we know. According to Paul's testimony, the trailer was backed up closer to Veronica's body, and then Paul and Tad put Veronica into the trailer. Paul then gets inside of it. Once he's inside, he said that the doors were shut on him and they were leaving. But then he saw Jillian laying on her back with her head facing the rear of the trailer. He also stated that Tad or Tifany loaded her in the trailer, but he's unsure of who because he was
Hmm.
already inside of it.
So
What
with
do you think about the blood in the truck? And then give me just a moment. I'm gonna let you talk about that, Tara. I've got to go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
You're good. So I think it's easy to develop this picture in our head of when we hear somebody say blood in the truck that had to be cleaned out. And we're thinking, a hose or a bucket. And, we're thinking all these cleaning supplies because we're thinking it's a big mess. And I think and it's a severe situation. It's a terrible, awful crime. It's very aggressive. It's very violent and it's brutal. And all we can think of is a big bloody mess. And so there's got to be blood everywhere. And we might be overthinking that one a little bit. It might be something simple as, maybe Tifany and Cora just had a little bit on them. Maybe they stepped in it. I think we need to reduce the magnitude of how we're taking those words. And it might have been something as simple as, go grab a cloth, go grab a bucket, wipe down the dashboard, wipe off the steering wheel, clean up the carpet on the floorboard type of thing. It might have been something as simple as that. It's still gruesome to ask a child to do that after such a terrible crime took place, but that might be all it is, and that is all it takes. You don't need to have a big gruesome crime scene to have a big clean out. It could be something as simple as wiping down surfaces, that type of thing. So I think after looking over the evidence and reading back through testimony, working through my notes, and there's 38 pages of notes that I took. I'm sure Kari has similar numbers of pages that she took from the preliminary. I think that's kind of where that is going. It's just not as big of a mess as what we wanted to think it was on the front end, because it's a gruesome act. It's a gruesome murder. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. I think, what do they call it? Blood transfer is
Well,
probably what
yeah,
took
Cora
place.
had to have had something on her clothes because she went home, took them off, and
Mm.
put them underneath her
She
closet
hid them,
floorboard.
yeah.
She
So
hid
she had to
them.
have
So,
something. See, I think
mhm.
it's transfer. I think this is a bunch of just wiping down surfaces, and I don't think we're talking about a hose and, a big splash event with water and soap
Right.
and bleach. I think this is, go grab the cleaner, grab the 409, grab the Mr. Clean, and grab some window cleaner and clean out that truck. And there was some probably blood smears or something of that nature in the truck. That's what I'm thinking, which is no less. It doesn't matter if it's a couple of blood smears or, it's coated in it. Having a
Right.
child do that is obscene, and it should be considered neglect and child abuse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about that. Tara was, they added the two child abuse charges to Tifany.
Hmm.
Why did they not add those to Cora and Cole? Because what they did was even worse than the charges.
Yeah.
The reasons why Tifany got the charges was because of the buying ratchet straps and the kids, helping her carry them and stuff. But yet Cora has her daughter clean out and a friend clean out this blood in her truck, but she didn't get any child because that would have been even more years added. I don't
I would
understand that.
think. And it's not gonna be added. Well, I guess we don't know exactly what. I think that's something too, is we're taking for granted what Cora and Cole pled to, right? Maybe those plea deals, we saw some handwritten notes on Cole's paperwork for waiving his speedy trial and waiving his preliminary. So maybe we'll get to learn a little bit more about what they're actually pleading to. So maybe
Right.
there's more to come on that.
Yeah. Hopefully. Hopefully, because like I said, even if it's just another 5 or 10 years, I think that her daughter deserves that kind of justice for what
Yeah.
she was made to do by her own mother. Like that is the ultimate betrayal. And also it keeps her behind bars even longer. So
Well, that goes to the nature of this group because these people are all involved with this group. The kids were forced to go to these meetings as though they're prayer meetings. And you think you have done such a great job of it, probably in the mind of Cora and Cole, prepping somebody when you're actually grooming them to think that you have done such a great job that this child is going to be like, oh, okay, no big deal. I just go clean out the truck and I'm not going to say anything about it. Like, how sadistic and deluded do you have to be to think that this is all okay? That's the interesting part to me.
yeah. That is to me too. A lot of the reason why I do true crime, although I hate it, hate it, hate it for the victims, I hate it for the families, I really am interested in the psychological
Yeah,
part of it. So that's
same.
what draws me to true crime is what makes people tick, what makes people do the things they do that are so just horrific. It's just not even human. You know what I mean? So
Agreed.
that's always I always try to like you know, get in their head kind of thing. I think we already answered this the best we could. If Cole and Cora were only lookouts, how did blood get into their truck? So
Well, and they were driving separately too,
they
so
were driving
only
supposedly,
one,
yeah.
Cole being a lookout, and then he somehow got knowledge that he needed to get clothing for Tad and Paul because Cora stopped him on the road when she hid her clothes, asking Cole, "What are you doing?" "Well, I have to get clothes for the boys," and then he never went back with those clothes. So
Mm,
he would have far less transfer than what Cora would. So that would be how. Again, we're not talking probably about massive amounts
mhm.
of blood. We're probably talking about just some transfer and smears, things of that nature.
Right. Although you would think like if it was just a drop, why didn't Cora just go out there and clean it up herself rather than involving her daughter? It just makes no sense. It makes
There's a
no
lot of
dang
information.
sense.
There's a
None
lot of
of it makes
information still
sense, but
missing.
yes,
Well, and it could be one of those things too where it's like, well, if one of us is going down, we're all going down, and it could be one of
right.
those control tactics. I mean, it's hard to say
And these are
entirely.
actual high school pictures of Cora and Cole, by
Oh,
the
you
way.
know what it could be too is that truck was parked. Cora's truck was parked in such a way, per her testimony, it was next to where Veronica and Paul would end up struggling on the ground. So it could be the exterior of the truck that had to be cleaned out or cleaned off because there would have been blood splatter occurring there depending on how close that truck was, or if Paul touched the truck and didn't realize it. So there's a couple of different possibilities
Yeah,
as to why that truck would need attention after the fact.
yeah, it's just wild. Most parents are gonna, conceal every last bit of that from their children, and it's mind blowing. So that's why I say she absolutely deserves child abuse charges too.
Mhm.
The call to arms, were they planning on killing Wrangler, his girlfriend, police? Um, I don't know. They were planning on killing anybody. They were trying to scare them. I don't know. But Tifany, she had support of some law enforcement out there,
Mhm.
and law enforcement was there with them. And Wrangler and girlfriend were sent on their way without his children. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I added this screenshot from Cole, August 2023, and he reposted this meme. They're doing it again because you didn't hang them last time. How ironic, Cole. How ironic.
Well then.
Yeah,
Oh boy, that won't age well for that
that's
group.
not aging well. No, it's not. And real quick, you guys, I mean, we're getting pretty close to being maybe 30 more minutes. If you would, if you'll just exit out real fast and hit the like button. Um, we try to be very factual as we can be. And so the more likes the video has, obviously that's how YouTube works, and it puts it higher in the algorithm and people get to hear the facts and not rumors or a lot of speculation. So I really want the facts of the case out.
Oh, interesting.
So if you
Oh,
would like it. What you got, Tara? What you got?
nope. Go ahead. I just got a text in. I'm gonna try to read through it real quick and see what can and cannot be shared.
Okay. And Maxine
Um,
said she's always paid the rent. Thank you, Maxine. And then we have 3 more super chats, and our next live, we will do an open panel or both, a call-in where it's all you guys. So, this next question was, where are the children? We perhaps can't answer in detail to protect them in family, but it keeps coming up. All I can say is the children are safe. They are safe. They're being well taken care of and loved, and that's it.
Yep, that is it.
Nobody needs to know where the children are, and I don't think that the people that ask are like, "Where are the kids?" I don't think that they're asking, "Are the kids okay? How are the?" That's what I think that they mean, and so yes, the kids are safe. They are doing okay, and they are with people that care about them, and yeah. So that's all we're gonna say on the kids.
When these are situations that no matter the minor that's involved, anybody who puts information out there regarding a minor puts that minor in danger every time. And so this is why we keep it to a minimum. We don't mention names, we stick to the initials, even if the courts have put it out there. That's one thing. But I've seen a lot of negative rhetoric about the children involved. And unless you know firsthand information, unless you've seen things
Mhm.
up front, you're taking on a lot of responsibility by putting out information that may or may not be true. You may be putting lives
Absolutely.
at danger. You may be putting lives at stake. So these kids are already suffering enough. And Carrie's made the point multiple times. At some point in time, these kids will be on the internet of their own good free will and will go back and see a lot of this information that's out there, and they will realize who was protecting them and who was putting them in the line of fire. And so I'm very big on people need to stop putting information out there about
Yeah.
the kids and lay off no matter what. These kids they're not the point. Veronica and Jillian are the point, and the 5 that have been charged are the responsibles. That's what matters.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Um, Sunshine. Okay, so I need to clear that up again. Sunshine said, so whatever happened to the one policeman they said that was involved, they said he was chasing you guys when you were looking for the girls. That was not a policeman. We found out that night who that was. Not a policeman, not a Camaro, is a Charger, right? Or do I have it wrong?
Oh, you
Is
had
a
asked
Camaro.
me.
Is a Camaro, not a Charger, and it was not a policeman. It was somebody that lives out there in the area. Um, how is Veronica's fiance? No one ever mentions him. Well, that's a good question. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about him, really.
I don't know anything about him either. I will say I just got a text in that indicates, and there was actually and that I don't know if it was because the comment was made and they didn't want to make this comment openly, but there was a comment made about, where's it at? Um, let's see. There was a comment made about how Cora wanted to implicate CW, which is her daughter, um, and that's why she made her clean out the truck. And I've got a couple of texts here that say that's probably pretty close to being spot on.
Yeah, she I mean to me, she kind of threw her daughter under the bus a few times in court.
Yeah, yeah, and then I think we missed the part of the testimony where Cora
Yeah.
indicates, doing this because I'm trying to be protective. Now you're being protective? That's malarkey. Now you're not. You were never protective. You were grooming. And then I just got a text in. We've got some listeners out there that
Yeah, I
don't
don't
appreciate the
remember.
chat, but
It's all
they
right.
yeah, and that's fine. That's totally fine. A text came in indicating Tracy's in good shape.
Okay,
Tracy's
good.
doing well. So appreciate
Good.
that.
And we
If
like I
you
said, we don't know anything about him, so I just don't have anything to say, bad or good. I just don't know him. I don't know much about him. I
Yeah.
assume Veronica was with him, and so I'm sure she dearly loved him. Okay, so let me get rid of that comment.
Uh-oh. Now you have me interested. Who's
Oh,
commenting?
no, it's just a comment I had on the screen.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I was like, ooh,
No,
what
no
drama's on
problem.
the screen?
Yep's got the hammer if she needs it anyway.
I was gonna say.
Do we know who all is going to testify or who is on the list? Yes, we know from what they put out so far. That doesn't mean more won't be added, but there's your list.
Mhm.
There is your list. There is a bunch from OSBI, Jason Ott. There are two from Kansas Bureau of Investigation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 from Texas County Sheriff's Office. 2 from the Guyman Police Department. Kevin McIntyre's on there from the DA Task Force. Texas County Guyman Firefighters. Tracy, is that Veronica's fiance?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Tracy is the
Hugoton
kids.
PD?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Hugoton. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
that's his last name. Okay.
Somebody will confirm that here in a second for
I'm
me. I'm
pretty
sure
sure
that'll
that's
come
his
in.
name.
I think so.
And then
This
another
is how
from
well we know who he
right.
is. We don't even
Yeah,
have the last name.
exactly. Sorry about that. Another from Hugoton PD.
Yeah, just confirm that is him. That's
And
yes.
then there's numerous people with the testifying for the DA's office, including the ones that found the car, the phone shop owner, Jamie Beasley, the landowner, the DA's office, Wrangler's grandmother, Cheryl Bruni. Is that
Yep.
right there?
Good
Oh,
job.
I got
Yeah.
it finally.
You got it.
Cheryl Bruni, who is supposed to be the supervisor. CW, sadly, she is going to testify, correct?
Yes, she
I believe
is.
so.
Yep.
And then the medical examiner's office, and then there's also Tractor Supply employees, Big R Standard employees, Walmart employee, and then PTCI, which I believe is internet or something out there. Those that live, I think that's what it is, and I think that's probably related to Tiffany's. Didn't she have some searches or something she had done?
She had some searches that were done, yes, and
Yeah.
then I want to say I thought that was the cell phone store too,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
No, it wasn't the cell phone store, but Charlie Bell, internet and phone. That's what I thought. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that.
Yep.
This just makes me sick how one person can have so much anger to influence all. Yeah, and how those were so easily influenced. That blows my mind. All right. We answered this one earlier too. I heard Paul told his wife afterwards. Did she contact anyone?
Our understanding from Paul during his testimony was no. That's what he testified to.
Right. And if not, is she in trouble for something? I don't think she is. But nothing was said about it other than what Tara said. Paul had mentioned during his testimony was that there was no immunity offered to her or anything like that he knew of, right?
Yeah, he wasn't aware of any deal that his deal didn't include her. That's
Right,
that much he knew. So Sunshine says, sorry, I haven't been on here since kind of the beginning. I just remembered there was a policeman that was in question, and I thought at one point Tara was talking to him. You're referring to Kevin McIntyre. He's with the drug task force there in that area. And I have messaged with him. Yes, I have talked with him. He is the case wasn't discussed. This was more of a are you a good witch or are you a bad witch type of conversation. Because there was a lot of gossip going on about him and his involvement, an affair with Tifany, getting teenage high school girls pregnant, marrying a teenage high school girl, all these different things. It's just like, okay. So Kari and I did a live after I talked with him, and we had several slides that we put out there, and he's not anybody to be concerned with where this case is concerned. So that was the policeman that kind of got wrapped up into all of this. And since I've talked with him, he's, as best as I can tell, he's a good witch. So we just kind of left it at that and went onward. And through
Right.
our research and through our all the relationships that we've developed down there, it hasn't come up since. There's been
Right.
nothing is wrapped back around him, nothing like it has for these other 5. Everything wraps back around to them and the group, but he wasn't even mentioned by Cora or Paul as being one of the group members. So he was just never brought up in court at all.
No. No, he wasn't brought up in court.
Mm-mm.
And like Tara said, that's her opinion. I've never spoke to him, messaged or anything, so I don't have really an opinion. I did my research on like his arrest history,
Oh, yeah.
arresting other people and stuff, and he did have a pretty good
Mhm.
history with that, getting a lot of drugs and stuff off the
Yeah.
streets. But other than that, I can't really say what kind of guy he is. I mean, anybody can tell you whatever they want to tell you. So
Well, and I
that was
think
her opinion after
yeah.
speaking with him. Um, and so that's where we left it, really.
When I think every right, when I think everybody has different opinions of different people, right? Carrie has one opinion of me. There are other people who have different kinds of opinions, and it's really based on our experiences. And so I know there was a lot of talk about Kevin McIntyre having some unfriendly past decisions that were career based and did not serve him well. Um, and so and that was curious as to how he got a job in Keys. Keys people knew about it. They investigated him too before they hired him. So that's all their stuff. And some people like him, some people don't. That's all it is. That's all
Right.
it kind of boils down to. So
So get to Ducking Point. That name cracks me. I about slip every time. Um, does the DA have to reveal all witnesses before trial? They do. Sometimes I have seen where they'll have like a last minute kind of witness, but even then they still have to let the defense know and things like that. So I think we will know who all the witnesses are going to be.
yeah, I think so too.
Did Tifany and Tad live together or did they have their own homes? They both own their own
Oh,
homes. And my understanding is they didn't live together. Um, Tad also has a child. So another child,
mhm.
hurt to an unbelievable extent because of a parent's actions. And my understanding is he did have the child, his custody of his visitations often, and so yeah, they both had their own separate houses. They did not live together. Now I don't know if they stayed together all the time or anything, but
Right.
they did have their own homes. So somebody wanted us to post this. So these are the upcoming court hearings. I put further proceedings because that's what the docket says. I can tell you Tad Columns. That probably will not even occur January 13th. His attorneys are going to put in oh my gosh, what was the word? Do you remember?
Memoranda.
Memorandum. They're going to put in a
Yes.
memorandum. His trial most likely would be May or June, I believe they said. Tiffany's further proceedings for April 16th.
Mhm.
And we don't know anything other than that because we don't know that, as far as we know, there's not been any plea deal made. If there has been, they're not making anybody aware of it right now anyway. I would expect hers to be on April 16th. It'll probably just be a motion type of hearing and it'll get
Okay.
moved out. Cole's February or January, March, May, May 7th. Further proceedings on all of them, but Cole, we do believe has a plea deal, but remember that is only handwritten on that
Yeah.
one piece of filing. So how legit is that? We don't really know. I think it's legit, but
I think it is
you
too, 'cause
know,
it's signed. It's a legal
right.
document that's signed, so it's part of that
So we
written
might
like
see something Cole May 7th. I imagine the rest are going to be like sentencing hearings. So Cole on May 7th, Cora February 19th, and Paul February 19th.
mhm.
And I do believe that those will be sentencing hearings.
Yeah, I think so too. Think so.
Who is living in their homes now and taking care of their property?
Probably family and friends.
Family. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
something
they
we've not
do. I
looked
mean, they
into.
have like a lot of animals, there's agriculture, there's a lot of things to be taken care of. They
Mhm.
have, pretty decent size operations is my understanding. So my guess is that family is helping them. And then that's it. So here are all the ways for you to reach out to us. the Facebook groups for this case, the general Facebook group where we just share true crime stories, missing people, things like that. You can reach me on Discord. You can message me on there. The text or voicemail is a burner phone, and then my email address. And yep, said I asked an attorney about that, and she said it appears to be possible notes. So I get that's kind of what I wondered. So I guess we have to wait and see. She said it would be very unorthodox to mark a client's deal like that, but I
Well,
think he would plea on the other side.
just got something in. I'm going to check it. I'm pretty sure it's legit, but let me check something
Sure.
real quick before we sign off. Because if that is the case, then that's.
And Hee Haw said, I know they say it's a civil issue, but something needs to change because this could have been avoided. Yes.
Yes.
And there is a very, very good friend of Veronica's father, and they are working on getting legislation passed. And you can find all that information in our Facebook group as well.
Okay. Nope, let's not save it there. Hold. Give me just a second. I have to download this because my computer wants to be stupid about it. And
I don't think we do. Yep, I checked it like maybe 4:30 this afternoon.
what's
maybe
that?
even later than that. The
There's
documents and stuff.
oh, there it is. Okay. Tifany waived her right to speedy trial.
All right then. So Tifany,
It's been waived. So speedy trial and preliminary are both waived. She signed that December. She signed the same day, December 17th.
why did
So it
I
looks
not
like
see that earlier?
I don't. It when it was filed. I'm not sure. Maybe it didn't go through right away, but yeah, it's there. my source is like, you doubt me. I just got to see it for myself.
Yeah, we're like, we gotta look. I'm
Before
holding
I
it
put
up
that
too.
out there,
We don't believe you. I don't believe Tara. We don't believe nobody. We do true crime. We believe nobody. No, I did look
That
earlier
makes
though,
it,
and I
that
didn't
makes
see.
that makes it sound awesome. I don't believe Tara. We're gonna go look this up.
Ah, I see it.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So
So
it's
sure enough.
and now, do they actually put them up on? I think are they available the day that they're filed? Because I know in Sedgwick County that's not always the case. It takes a few days for it to show up online. So maybe because of all the holidays and stuff, we didn't catch it right away. But
I don't know, and I might have just seen those certifications to the court clerk and the waiver of preliminary, and I skipped right over
okay.
this. But here it is. So it was filed December 17th. That's interesting because didn't they say they did say in court that she was waiving her preliminary,
Yes.
but not, and they
Not her
made it clear,
speedy.
not her
Yes.
right to a speedy trial.
Yep.
So that's interesting. I mean, any guesses on what that means based on what we've seen so far? That's probably another
If
plea deal.
if patterns and trends are as they have been, then Tifany probably took life
Yeah,
with us. And I'm hoping it's not a suspended sentence type of. I'm hoping it's
I
real
do
life,
too.
like she's SOL. She's canned. Now here's the so if that's the case, right? So you and I've kind of talked about this offline. If Tifany has taken a plea deal, that means she will have to testify against Tad. That's all four of them
Hmm.
testifying against Tad. I mean, that's powerful stuff, I would like to think. So, what possible notion, what possible story could Tad's defense come up with to counter the prosecutions and all his star witnesses? Because they're just going to line up. I mean, these people are essentially the execution team at this point, just lining up to say, this is what he did. This is because it'll be all about Tad. They won't
Well,
have to
yeah,
focus on
and
anybody else.
since everybody, Cora and Paul both said they didn't see Tad do anything, we know according to their testimony, Tad was with Tifany.
Mhm.
So Tiffany is going to be the one to say, "I saw him break Jillian's neck," or whatever it might be,
Right.
because the others aren't saying that.
Correct.
But here's the thing, like, is the jury gonna believe Tifany, who's fighting for her life? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I
But
mean, that would be the same for the other, like, what do they have to gain? What do they have to
yeah.
lose by testifying? And Patrick, actually, the day of September or December 17th, when the preliminary started, Tifany was the first one to waive her preliminary. But during that time, as she was waiving her preliminary and signing the paperwork, it was clearly stated by her defense team she was not waiving her right to a speedy trial, which is why they put her on the docket for April, to go forward to that next step. So now she may have waived that speedy trial after she was removed from the courtroom, and there was some discussion behind closed doors. But at the actual trial, at the preliminary, it was only the preliminary that she waived, not the speedy at that point in time, which is why we didn't see it or catch it. Didn't even think to keep up with it. So that's,
No. Mm-mm.
and they may have reported it on the news, but if they reported it that day, either they were watching the OCSN network much more closely than what we were, or they just assumed that was the case. You got to be careful with how the media reports things. They only have so much time if they're in an oral represent, or if they're reporting orally, and they only have so many words if it's going online or if it's being in print. So take that in consideration as you are listening to the media.
Yeah, and I do get alerts every time something's filed, but I probably saw it, and because it was made so clear in court she was
Yeah.
not waiving that I saw the preliminary waiver and probably just skipped right on over it.
Yeah.
So
Yes, Texas
the
Lady
Texas cut.
Jayhawker, her preliminary and speedy trial have both been waived. So when she has probably taken a deal, that's kind of how things have been going if they waive both. So her April date was probably going to be a sentencing, I imagine. We'll get to
Yeah.
hear more about that soon. Let me see. Let me check
Mhm.
my text to see if I've got
Yeah,
anything
so
more on
she has
that.
waived both.
Let me see.
Sunset Girl, yeah, all of the attorneys stayed in and listened to the rest of the preliminary hearing. The attorneys that their clients had already been taken back to jail, they sat over in the jury box
Yep.
section.
Yeah, they knew it was coming. So her attorney saw everything and heard everything else that everybody else had to say.
Right.
Pointed at Tad all of day one, and Cole all of day one. However, they only saw Tad being pointed at day two. There was no need to go on about Cole or anybody else. They focused on Tad because they just had to prove the charges against Tad, not the rest. The rest took the charges. That's why they were waiving their preliminaries. They accepted the charges for what they were and then moved on to the next round of stuff.
Right.
Oh
All
boy.
right.
Craziness.
Sorry, I had to cough. Yeah, I'm gonna say that she is being offered a deal, and it might just be that the death penalty is off the table.
Yeah.
The same that with Paul.
Paul,
So
yep.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Um, but yeah, so that's all we have. I hope that answered some of your questions. If you have more, you can always put them in the comments, and we're happy to answer any that we're able to. We don't know everything, and we're not attorneys. We just try to present what we see in court, what we do know from sources, and that kind of thing. So, but you're more than welcome to always ask any question. And if you'd like to reach out to us, basically anything you send me, Tara gets too. So you can always email me or text or whatever. And with that, do you have anything else to add, Tara? Thank you so much, for all of you in the chat, and for being here with us, and for Yep for modding for us. We really
Yes.
appreciate you. And Yep also has a video coming out. I think. Do you want me to share that? Yep, because I think she said her she thinks
She
it
had
was corrupted.
she had an issue with something. There was some sort of she thinks it's been she thinks it's been corrupted. Dang it. That's not cool. Hopefully she can fix it if that's the problem.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
She's a
too.
genius with the video, so she'll come through on that. She'll be great. Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. We got last two lives were like 3.5 hours, so it's kind of nice. I hope that those that watch it on replay enjoy it a little bit better.
Yep,
And I'll go back and put chapters in it, so it's easy if you want to just skip right to the questions
it's
and what
awesome.
have you. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you,
Yeah,
Tara. And
always. And
it,
Shenanigans comes back next week.
yeah, can you put your link in the
Oh,
chat? And also, yep, if you will put your channel link in the chat, I would appreciate that.
we can do that. I think fairly semi
Thank you,
quickly, maybe.
Scraggles. Shayna, we appreciate you. Husker, Happy New Year to you as well. Let's all just
Uh,
pray that this year is a lot better year. I know I'm praying for it.
yeah, you need a better year.
Yes. All right. So that is Tara's channel. And do you know when we're doing the next live?
We're back on Tuesdays, just like we
Okay.
had been. So I'll get that scheduled and have no idea what the topic is yet. I've had a couple of requests and suggestions for topic. And somebody wanted me to go back to how to demeanor on social media. Somebody wanted to revisit that conversation, which was with the that was the first conversation when Shenanigans officially launched. So we will see. We're definitely going to revisit that one. So we'll see. We'll see what comes up.
Right. Thank you, Maxine. I appreciate that. All right, you guys, we're going to get off here for this evening and love you all. Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year. And we will be back. If not in the next few days, we'll be back next week. And we'll talk to you soon.
You guys have a good one. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here with us.
Bye bye.